Imagine a conflict, not just shaping the borders of nations, but redrawing the global balance of power. Ukraine's war is that conflict, a storm of geopolitics, resilience, and human cost. With over 1,000 days of battles and shifting alliances, the world holds its breath. As artillery shells roar and diplomacy teeters on a knife's edge, we stand at a crossroads, resolution or escalation. Let's uncover the realities and ramifications of this historic crisis. Ukraine's forces are stretched thin, battling exhaustion and dwindling manpower after years of relentless fighting. Reports from the front paint a grim picture. Ukrainian troops, often lacking experienced commanders, struggle to hold their positions as Russia's relentless advances test their resilience. In the region around Pokrovsk, Russia's creeping progress highlights Ukraine's vulnerabilities. A commander, using the call sign East, summarized the dire situation. We lack infantry to fight and hold out while drones do their work. Without sufficient Western support, Ukraine's capacity to sustain its defense remains uncertain. Over the past 4 months, Russia has shifted to a grinding attrition strategy, gradually encircling key Ukrainian positions. In Sova, a crucial town outside Pokrovsk taken by Russia in October, Ukrainian forces were outnumbered and overwhelmed. The defenders, estimated to be fewer than 60 troops, faced significant casualties and had no choice but to retreat. This stark reality underscores the critical shortages of both manpower and seasoned leadership within Ukraine's ranks. On the other side, Russia's strategy reveals a willingness to pay any price for victory. The Kremlin's tactics, characterized by mass infantry deployments and staggering casualty rates, demonstrate a chilling indifference to human loss. Reports suggest that in November alone, Russia suffered up to 45,000 casualties. Despite inferior quality ammunition from North Korea, Russia's artillery barrage remains relentless, bolstered by sheer volume. In the trenches near Bakhmut, Andriy, a young Ukrainian soldier, recounts the constant drone of artillery fire and the harrowing task of holding the line. Every day feels like a year, he says, describing the exhaustion and fear that accompany life on the front. His story is one of thousands, each reflecting the grit and sacrifice of those fighting to protect their homeland. Meanwhile, civilians like Maria, a teacher-turned-volunteer in Kyiv, gather supplies and send handwritten notes to soldiers, boosting morale amidst the chaos. Ukraine's struggle with Russian aggression traces its roots back decades, particularly to the dissolution of the Soviet Union in 1991. The 2014 annexation of Crimea marked a flashpoint, signaling the Kremlin's willingness to use force to reassert control over former Soviet territories. The ongoing war has reignited these historical tensions, with echoes of imperial ambitions shaping the geopolitical landscape. Western aid has been a lifeline for Ukraine, but its sustainability is under question. The supply of advanced weaponry, from HIMARS to long-range ATACMS, has helped Ukraine offset some of its disadvantages. However, logistical delays and political hesitations have often diluted their impact. Ukraine's President Zelensky is under mounting pressure to lower the draft age, potentially mobilizing over 1 million new recruits. Yet, such measures come at a steep cost, risking the nation's future workforce and morale. Meanwhile, Europe and the United States face their own dilemmas. France has floated the idea of deploying European troops to stabilize a ceasefire, a proposal aligned with U.S. strategies for reducing its direct involvement. This shift signals a broader goal, forcing Europe to take greater responsibility for Ukraine's security, while the U.S. recalibrates its focus towards countering China. Within NATO, debates rage over how much support can be sustained without straining internal resources. Inflation, rising energy prices, and political divisions threaten the alliance's unity. However, the stakes are clear. Failing to confront Russian aggression risks emboldening adversaries and undermining global stability. China, while maintaining an official stance of neutrality, has subtly expanded its trade with Russia, indirectly aiding Moscow's war efforts. Turkey, leveraging its unique position as a NATO member with strong ties to Russia, has facilitated limited negotiations while continuing to supply Ukraine with drones. Meanwhile, India's balancing act reflects its desire to remain non-aligned while benefiting economically from discounted Russian oil. The war has profoundly impacted Ukrainian society. Cultural preservation efforts have surged as Ukrainians embrace their national identity with renewed fervor. Across the country, artists, musicians, and writers document the war through their work, creating a poignant narrative of resilience. Local communities have banded together to provide support, with grassroots movements ensuring supplies and aid reach the most affected regions. Ukrainians abroad have mobilized in solidarity, hosting fundraisers, lobbying foreign governments, and sharing their homeland's plight with the world. The war has left scars not only on the people but also on the land. Shelling has contaminated farmland, while damaged industrial sites pose risks of chemical leaks. Forest fires caused by military strikes have released significant carbon emissions, further exacerbating the environmental damage. Experts warn that the ecological restoration of Ukraine could take decades, adding another layer of complexity to post-war recovery. Within Russia, the prolonged conflict is taking a toll. Reports of dissent among conscripts and families of fallen soldiers are growing, despite the Kremlin's tight control over media narratives. Economic sanctions have strained industries, leading to inflation and unemployment spikes. Moscow's efforts to suppress opposition voices have further alienated segments of the population, fueling quiet unrest that could destabilize Putin's regime in the long run. Technological innovation has played a surprising role in this war. Ukraine's adaptation of civilian drones for military purposes has allowed it to maintain resilience in asymmetrical battles. Additionally, Western intelligence sharing and satellite imaging have bolstered Ukraine's precision targeting of Russian assets, showcasing the modern era of warfare where information is as critical as firepower. This blend of technology and strategy has enabled Ukraine to punch above its weight, disrupting Russian supply lines and command centers. The economic toll of the war has also been immense. Ukraine's infrastructure has suffered billions in damages, from power plants to transportation networks. Efforts to rebuild have been constrained by ongoing strikes, a lack of resources, and the urgency to maintain military supply chains. Meanwhile, sanctions are straining Russia's economy, with inflation surging and critical industries facing labor shortages due to mobilization. Western nations have pledged significant aid for Ukraine's reconstruction, but the scale of rebuilding remains daunting. Strategically, Ukraine's future hinges on several scenarios. One possibility lies in diplomatic breakthroughs, where Western efforts could pressure Russia into negotiations, leading to uneasy compromises. Such settlements might stabilize the region temporarily, but could leave Ukraine vulnerable to future aggression. Another path is stagnation. Without a decisive shift in strategy or momentum, the war risks becoming a prolonged deadlock, depleting resources and intensifying suffering on all sides. The most perilous trajectory involves escalation. With nuclear rhetoric heightening and the West supplying advanced weaponry, the conflict could spiral into a broader confrontation, drawing in more nations and increasing the stakes to unprecedented levels. The war in Ukraine is more than a battle for territory. It's a defining moment for global order. The choices made in the coming months will reverberate far beyond Eastern Europe, shaping alliances, economies, and the balance of power for decades to come.